In 1978, a young female deputy from a quiet Oregon river town vanished during her night patrol, leaving no trace. Everyone assumed she'd abandoned her post until 9 years later, when a kayaker spots her rusted patrol car emerging from the Clackamas River, its contents revealing a chilling truth about that night and the people she trusted. The morning mist clung to the banks of the Clackamas River, wrapping the Oregon town of Estacada in a cool, gray veil. On that April day in 1987, Sergeant Thomas Reed sipped his coffee at his kitchen table, the radio on his counter humming with static. 9 years had passed since his sister, Deputy Ellen Reed, vanished during a routine night patrol in 1978, her patrol car and badge gone without a trace. The department had called it desertion, whispering she'd run off, unable to handle the job. Thomas knew better. Ellen was tough, ambitious, the first woman deputy in Clackamas County, her badge worn with pride. At 27, she'd been his younger sister, his confidant, the one who'd promised to be careful that last night before her shift. Now at 36, Thomas carried the weight of her absence, a wound that never healed. The radio crackled to life, shattering his thoughts. Unit 12, this is dispatch. We have a 10-54 at Clackamas River, mile marker 17. Kayaker reports a possible police vehicle in the shallows. Requesting immediate response. Thomas's coffee mug slipped from his hand, hitting the table with a thud. A police vehicle? His pulse quickened as he grabbed his jacket. Dispatch, this is Unit 12, Reed responding. Ada, 8 minutes. The drive to mile marker 17 was a blur, the winding river road flanked by towering firs and the rush of the Clackamas. Thomas's mind raced, replaying that night in 1978. Ellen's quick smile as she left for patrol, her promise to call after her shift, the empty hours that followed. The department's search had been cursory, their assumption of desertion shutting down any real investigation. Thomas had fought to keep the case open, combing her logs, her routes, but found nothing. Now a vehicle in the river? He gripped the steering wheel, daring to hope. As he arrived, 2 patrol cars were already parked at the riverbank, their lights cutting through the mist. Yellow tape cordoned off a gravel pullout where a cluster of officers stood, peering into the shallows. Detective Michael Holt, Thomas's partner, waved him over, his face grim. "Tom, you need to brace yourself," Holt said, his voice low. "It's one of ours old model, rusted to hell." The kayakers spotted it when the river level dropped after last week's storm. Thomas pushed past, his boots crunching on gravel, and looked down. There, half submerged in the river, was a mangled patrol car, its frame corroded, windows shattered, and tires long gone. The faded Clackamas County Sheriff's logo was just visible on the door. A Coast Guard helicopter hovered overhead, its rotors thumping as a recovery team prepared to lift the wreck. The kayaker, a wiry man in his 40s wearing a wetsuit, stood nearby, shaking his head. "Been kayaking this stretch for years," he told Thomas. "Never saw it before. That storm must have shifted the riverbed. Saw the bumper glint in the sun this morning, knew it was wrong." Thomas nodded, his throat tight. "You did right calling it in." Holt joined them, holding a radio. "Forensics is on the way. The VIN's partially readable. They're running it now." Thomas's heart pounded. Ellen's car was a '76 Dodge Monaco. "Same as this?" Holt nodded cautiously. "Looks like it. We'll know soon." The helicopter's cables went taut, and the crowd of officers fell silent as the car was lifted, water streaming from its frame like a weeping relic. Debris, mud, riverweed, and rust fell to the bank as the wreck was set down on a cleared patch of ground. Up close, it was a skeleton of steel, barnacles crusting its undercarriage. The interior, a ruin of rotted fabric and corroded metal. The forensics team moved in, their cameras flashing as they documented every angle. Thomas stood back, his hands clenched, watching as they pried open the driver's door. It came away in pieces, hinges dissolved by years underwater. "No remains visible," a tech called out, and Thomas exhaled, a mix of relief and dread. No body didn't mean no answers. It could mean anything. The team worked methodically, pulling items from the wreckage. A rusted flashlight, a citation book fused into a sodden mass, and then, from under the passenger seat, a .38 caliber shell casing, glinting faintly. "Department issue," the tech said, holding it up. "Matches what we used in '78. Thomas's stomach churned. Ellen's service weapon was a .38 revolver. Had she fired it that night? Another tech popped the trunk, his flashlight sweeping the interior. "Blood traces here," he announced. "Degraded, but visible. Significant pooling." Thomas's legs felt weak. Blood. A bullet casing. This wasn't desertion. This was a crime scene. Sheriff Robert Kane pushed through the tape, his presence commanding despite his graying hair and rounded frame. He'd been Ellen's supervisor in 1978, the one who'd signed off on her promotion. Now, his face was a mask of shock. "Tom, what the hell is this?" he demanded. "It's Ellen's car," Thomas said, his voice steady despite the storm inside. "Veng confirms it. Deputy Ellen Reed's vehicle, missing since '78. Kane's jaw tightened. "Christ, after all this time." He turned to the forensics lead. "What have we got?" "Blood in the trunk, shell casing, no body," the tech summarized. "No dash cam, probably destroyed by the water. This is a homicide scene, Sheriff." Kane rubbed his temples. "All right, full workup, DNA, ballistics, the works. This is one of our own." He looked at Thomas. "You shouldn't be here, Tom. You're too close to this." Thomas shook his head. "I'm not going anywhere. Ellen was my sister." Kane's expression softened, but his tone was firm. "You're off this case, officially. Holt will lead it. I know you won't sit still, but don't interfere. Let us do our job." The news vans arrived as if summoned, their cameras trained on the wreck. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions. "Sergeant Reed, is this your sister's car? Do you believe she was murdered? Was Deputy Reed under investigation when she disappeared?" Thomas faced them, his voice calm but resolute. "Deputy Ellen Reed was a dedicated officer, the first woman deputy in this county. She disappeared in 1978 during a routine patrol. We're investigating this discovery thoroughly to find out what happened. That's all for now." Holt pulled him away before more questions could fly, guiding him to their patrol car. "Go home, Tom," Holt said. "I'll handle the scene. I'll call you with updates." Thomas nodded, but his mind was already racing. "I've got Ellen's case files at home," he said. "I'll review them, see if we missed anything." Kane overheard, stepping closer. "That's fine, but don't go rogue. Holt's in charge. Trust him." Thomas met Holt's eyes. "I do. Just find who did this." Holt nodded. "We will." Thomas drove home, the river's mist following him like a ghost. His house, a modest ranch style on the edge of Estacada, was silent, the weight of 9 years pressing against the walls. He went straight to his study, pulling a cardboard box labeled Ellen Reed, 1978 from a shelf. Inside were her personnel file, logbooks, and witness statements, meager scraps from a case closed too quickly. Ellen's photo stared up at him, her dark hair neatly braided, her deputy's badge gleaming, her smile full of determination. He traced the logbook entries for October 3, 1978. 2,100 hours, beginning patrol, Sector 4. Then, at 2,115, routine stop, River Road, mile marker 15. Citation issued. Nothing after that, no distress call, no backup request, just silence. The witness statements were thin. Her partner, Deputy Sarah Klein, said Ellen was in good spirits, planning to grab coffee after her shift. 2 civilians reported seeing a patrol car on River Road, but couldn't confirm it was hers. Thomas leaned back, the papers spread across his desk. Ellen wouldn't have driven her car into the river. Someone else was involved, someone who'd silenced her radio, hidden her car, and let the town believe she'd run. His eyes fell on the duty roster. Deputy David Marsh had been the night supervisor, signing off on Ellen's log. Marsh was still with the department, now a lieutenant. Thomas grabbed his phone and dialed Holt. "Mike, I need you to check on David Marsh. He was Ellen's supervisor the night she disappeared." Holt's voice was cautious. "Marsh? He's a solid guy, Tom. What's this about?" "He signed her log. I just want to talk to him." "Can you get his current contact?" Holt sighed. "All right, I'll pull it when I'm back at the station. But Tom, don't do anything stupid." Thomas hung up, his gaze returning to Ellen's photo. 9 years of lies, of whispers that she'd abandoned her duty. Now the river had given up her car, and with it, the truth was rising. He'd find out who'd taken her, and why. Thomas Reed sat at his kitchen table, the cardboard box of Ellen's case files open before him, the morning's discovery still raw in his mind. The rusted patrol car pulled from the Clackamas River, Ellen's car, confirmed by the Vang, had shattered the town's assumption that his sister had deserted her post in 1978. The .38 caliber shell casing, the blood traces in the trunk, and the absence of her body pointed to something far darker than abandonment. Thomas's hands shook as he sifted through the files, his eyes lingering on Ellen's logbook. 2115. Routine stop. River Road. Mile marker 15. Citation issued. No distress call, no backup request, just silence. The redacted witness statement he'd found tucked in an unrelated file nagged at him. A local trucker, James Carter, claiming he'd seen a patrol car and a dark pickup near the river that night, only for his official statement to say he'd seen nothing. Why the discrepancy? And why had Lieutenant David Marsh, Ellen's supervisor, signed off on her log without noting the missing radio call? Thomas's gut told him Marsh knew more than he'd let on. The phone rang, jarring him. It was Detective Michael Holt, his voice tense. "Tom, I pulled Marsh's contact info. He's off duty today, lives out near Carver. But something's up. Sheriff Kane's acting strange. He was in the evidence room earlier, hovering over the techs processing Ellen's car. Asked a lot of questions about the blood samples." Thomas's grip tightened on the phone. Kane was Ellen's supervisor in '78. He'd pushed the desertion story hard. "You think he's worried we'll find something?" Holt hesitated. "Maybe. He's been on edge since the car surfaced. I'm heading to the station now to review the logs from '78. Want to meet me?" Thomas glanced at the files. "I'm going to talk to Marsh first. He signed Ellen's log that night. If he's hiding something, I need to know." Holt's tone sharpened. "Tom, don't go alone. Kane's orders, you're off this case. Let me come with you." Thomas shook his head, though Holt couldn't see. "I'll be careful. Just check those logs. Call me if you find anything." He hung up before Holt could argue, grabbing his keys and the redacted witness statement. Marsh's signature was a thread to pull, and Thomas wasn't waiting for permission. The drive to Carver, a rural stretch outside Estacada, took 15 minutes along winding roads flanked by firs and the river's distant shimmer. Marsh's house was a tidy split level, a sheriff's cruiser in the driveway. Thomas parked, his heart pounding, and approached the door, the witness statement tucked in his jacket. Marsh answered on the second knock, his face weathered but alert, his lieutenant's badge pinned to a casual shirt. "Tom Reed," Marsh said, his tone friendly but guarded. "Didn't expect you. Heard about the car, hell of a thing." Thomas nodded, forcing a neutral expression. "Can we talk?" "About Ellen's case." Marsh's eyes flickered, but he stepped aside. "Sure, come in." The living room was sparse, a deer head mounted above the fireplace, a coffee table cluttered with hunting magazines. Thomas sat, pulling out the statement. "You signed Ellen's log the night she disappeared. Her last entry was a traffic stop at 2115, then nothing. No distress call, no backup request. Why didn't you flag it?" Marsh's jaw tightened, but he leaned back casual. It was a busy night. Ellen was a good deputy, thought she'd just missed a check-in. By morning, when she didn't show, we searched. Found nothing, so we assumed. He trailed off, shrugging. You assume she ran, Thomas said, his voice sharp. But her car's in the river now, with blood and a bullet casing. That's not running. Marsh shifted, his eyes darting to the window. Look, Tom, I did my job. We looked for her, River Road, the docks everywhere. Kane said she'd been stressed, maybe overwhelmed. First woman deputy, lot of pressure. Thomas leaned forward. I found a witness statement, buried in another file. James Carter saw a patrol car and a dark pickup near the river that night. His official statement says he saw nothing. Someone changed it. You were her supervisor, did you know? Marsh's face hardened. You're digging up old ghosts, Tom. Carter was a drunk back then, always spinning stories. We took his statement, but it didn't hold up. Thomas held his gaze. Then why hide it? Marsh stood abruptly. I've got a shift soon. You should go. Thomas didn't move. Ellen was my sister. If you know something, tell me. Marsh's voice turned cold. I don't. Leave it to Holt. Thomas stood, his instincts screaming. Marsh was hiding something, his evasiveness, the quick dismissal of Carter's statement. As he left, he noticed a dark pickup parked behind Marsh's cruiser, its fender dented. His pulse quickened. Was it the same pickup Carter had seen? Back in his car, Thomas called Holt. Marsh is cagey. Denied knowing about the hidden statement, but he's nervous. I saw a dark pickup in his driveway, matches Carter's description. Holt's voice was urgent. Tom, I found something in the 78 logs. Ellen's radio was logged as malfunctioning that night, but there's no repair record. Someone turned it off or broke it. And Kane initialed the entry. Thomas's blood ran cold. Kane? He was at the scene today, poking around the evidence. We need to find James Carter, see what he really saw. Holt agreed. I've got his last known address. Small farm off Springwater Road. Meet me there in 20. Thomas drove, his mind racing. Kane, Marsh, a hidden statement, a pickup, pieces of a puzzle Ellen had died trying to solve. The river had given up her car. Now it was up to him to uncover the truth. Springwater Road was a quiet stretch, farms and orchards dotting the landscape. Holt's unmarked sedan was already parked when Thomas arrived at Carter's address, a weathered farmhouse with a sagging porch. Holt met him at the gate. Carter's still here, runs a repair shop now. He's expecting us. James Carter, a burly man in his 50s with grease-stained hands, opened the door, his face wary. Heard you found Ellen's car, he said, letting them in. The living room was cluttered with tools and car parts, a stark contrast to the tidy police station. Thomas showed him the redacted statement. You said you saw a patrol car and a dark pickup near the river the night Ellen disappeared. Then you changed your story. Why? Carter's eyes widened, then dropped to the floor. I was a trucker then, hauling lumber. Saw Ellen pull over a pickup on River Road around 2130. Thought it was routine, kept driving. Later, I heard she was missing, so I went to the station, told them what I saw. Sheriff Kane took my statement, said it was unreliable, told me to stick to saying I saw nothing. Next day, he showed up here with an envelope, $2,000 cash. Said it was for my trouble, but I knew it was a bribe. Thomas's fists clenched. Why didn't you come forward? Carter laughed bitterly. Kane's the sheriff. I had kids, a mortgage. He said he'd make sure I lost my trucking license if I talked. So I took the money and shut up. Holt leaned forward, described the pickup. Carter rubbed his neck. Black, older model, maybe a 74 Ford, had a dent on the rear fender, left side. Thomas exchanged a glance with Holt, Marsh's truck. Anyone else with Kane when he bribed you? Thomas asked. Carter nodded. Yeah, David Marsh was there. Didn't say much, just stood behind Kane like muscle. Holt stood. "Mr. Carter, we need you to come to the station. Give an official statement." Carter hesitated, fear in his eyes. "Kane's still sheriff. He'll ruin me." Thomas's voice was firm. "He's not untouchable anymore. We've got Ellen's car, evidence, and your testimony. Help us." Carter sighed, nodding. "All right." For Ellen, she was a good cop. At the station, the bullpen was a hive of activity, officers processing evidence from the river. Thomas spotted Sheriff Kane near the evidence room, speaking heatedly to a tech. "Tom, what are you doing here?" Kane demanded, spotting him. "You're off this case." Thomas held his ground. "I'm here with a witness." "James Carter's ready to talk about 78. Kane's face paled, but he recovered quickly. "Carter? That old drunk? Good luck with that." He walked away, his gait unsteady. Holt whispered, "He's rattled." "I checked the logs. Kane was on duty that night, too. Signed off on Ellen's malfunctioning radio." Thomas's mind raced. Kane and Marsh, both tied to the cover-up. He needed more, something to connect them to the car, the blood, the casing. As Carter gave his statement, Thomas slipped into the evidence room, where the techs were cataloging items from Ellen's car. A small evidence bag caught his eye, a tarnished locket, heart-shaped, engraved with Ellen and Tom always. His breath caught. Ellen had worn it every day, a gift from their parents. He touched it through the plastic, his resolve hardening. She hadn't run, she'd been taken. Holt joined him, holding a file, found another anomaly. Ellen was working a drug case in 78. Small-time dealers on River Road. Her notes mention a dark pickup, possibly involved in meth distribution. She was close to a bust before she vanished. Thomas's pulse quickened. The pickup Carter saw, it's Marsh's, and Kane buried the statement to protect it. Holt nodded. "We need to confront Marsh, but carefully. If Kane's involved, he'll cover for him." Thomas's phone rang, a private number. He answered, expecting the station update, but a woman's voice, young and urgent, came through. "Uncle Tom? It's Lily, Mom's daughter. I know what happened to her. I'm coming to Estacada. Don't trust anyone at the station." The line went dead, leaving Thomas stunned. Lily, Ellen's daughter, was only 10 in 1978, living with her father in Portland after Ellen's divorce. What could she know? Thomas Reed stood in the Estacada police station's parking lot. The April 1987 dusk settling over the Clackamas River Valley, the mist curling like a ghost around his patrol car. Lily's call, "Uncle Tom, I know what happened to Mom. I'm coming to Estacada." "Don't trust anyone at the station," echoed in his mind, her voice urgent and raw. Ellen's daughter, only 10 when her mother vanished in 1978, was now 19, and her words had shaken him. How could she know anything about Ellen's disappearance? The rusted patrol car pulled from the river that morning, with its blood traces .38 caliber shell casing, and Ellen's locket had already turned Thomas's world upside down. Now Lily's claim suggested a deeper truth, one tied to Sheriff Robert Kane and Lieutenant David Marsh, both implicated by James Carter's redacted witness statement and Ellen's hidden case notes about a drug-running pickup. Thomas clutched the locket's evidence bag, his sisters engraved Ellen and Tom, always a silent promise to find justice. Detective Michael Holt emerged from the station, his face grim. "Tom, Carter's statement is solid. Kane bribed him to bury the pickup sighting, and Marsh was there. But Kane's in his office now, acting like nothing's wrong. We need more to nail him." Thomas's voice was tight. "Lily's coming. She says she knows what happened. We need to keep this quiet until she gets here." Holt nodded, glancing at the bustling station. Agreed. If Kane or Marsh suspect we're onto them, they'll cover their tracks. "I'm pulling more 78 files. Ellen's drug case notes mention a meth operation near River Road. That pickup Carter saw might be the key." Thomas's heart raced. "Marsh has a pickup like it in his driveway. And Kane signed off on Ellen's malfunctioning radio that night. They're hiding something big." Holt's radio crackled. "Detective Holt, we've got a woman at the front desk asking for Sergeant Reed. Says her name's Lily." Thomas's breath caught. "That's her. I'm going." Holt grabbed his arm. "Careful, Tom. If Lily's got evidence, Kane can't know yet." Thomas nodded, heading inside. The station was a hive of activity. Officers processing evidence from the river wreck, their voices a low hum. At the front desk stood a young woman, her dark hair pulled back, her eyes wide with fear and resolve. Lily, she looked so much like Ellen, same sharp jaw, same steady gaze. "Uncle Tom," she said, rushing to him, her voice breaking as she hugged him. "I'm sorry I didn't come sooner. I was scared." Thomas led her to a quiet interview room, Holt following and closing the door. "Lily, what do you know about your mom?" he asked, his voice gentle but urgent. Lily sat, clutching a small backpack, her hands trembling. "That night, October 3rd, 1978, Mom came to see me in Portland before her shift. I was staying with Dad after their divorce. She was nervous, said she'd found something bad at work, cops taking money to protect drug runners. She didn't say who, but she gave me a notebook, told me to hide it and not tell anyone, not even Dad. She said if anything happened to her, I should wait until it was safe to come forward." Thomas's heart pounded. "You have it?" Lily nodded, pulling a worn notebook from her backpack and handing it to him. "I kept it all these years, moving between relatives. I didn't understand it as a kid, but last week, I saw the news about Mom's car in the river. I read the notebook. It's got names, dates, payments. Mom was building a case against someone in the department." Thomas opened the notebook, his hands shaking. Ellen's precise handwriting filled the pages. October 1st, 1978. Confirmed payments to RK from River Road dealers. Black pickup, license plate noted. DM involved, overseas deliveries. RK Robert Kane. DM David Marsh. Further entries detailed drop points, cash amounts, and a meth lab near the old sawmill. Ellen had been closing in on a corruption ring within the sheriff's department. "She knew they were dirty," Thomas whispered. "That's why they killed her." Holt scanned the pages, his jaw tight. "This is dynamite." Kane and Marsh were protecting the drug operation, and Ellen was about to blow it open. "We've got Carter's statement, the pickup, and now this. We need to move fast." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Mom said to trust you, Uncle Tom. That's why I came. But she warned me not to trust anyone else in the department." Holt stood, his voice low. "We're taking this to the FBI. Kane's still sheriff. He's got too much pull here. I'll call Agent Sarah Brooks. She's worked corruption cases in Portland." Thomas nodded, but his eyes were on the station's bullpen, where Kane was speaking to Marsh, their heads close, expressions tense. "They're nervous," he said. "They know the cars stirred things up." Holt followed his gaze. "Let's get Lily's statement on record, then secure her somewhere safe. If Kane or Marsh get wind of this notebook, they'll come for her." Thomas squeezed Lily's shoulder. "You're safe with us. Your mom was a hero. She died to stop this." Lily wiped her tears, her voice fierce. "I want them to pay, Uncle Tom, for her." They moved to a secure office where Holt recorded Lily's statement, her voice steady as she recounted Ellen's visit, the notebook, and her years in hiding, moving between aunts in Salem and Eugene, working odd jobs as a seamstress to stay off the radar. Thomas listened, pride and grief warring within him. Ellen had protected her daughter, entrusting her with the truth that would outlive her. As Lily finished, an officer knocked. "Detective Holt, Sheriff Kane's asking for you. Says it's urgent." Holt's eyes narrowed. "Stall him, we're busy." The officer nodded and left, but Thomas's gut churned. Kane was circling, sensing the net tightening. Holt called Agent Brooks, briefing her on the notebook and the river evidence. "We need federal backup," he said. "Kane and Marsh are flight risks." Brooks promised agents within the hour. Thomas and Holt escorted Lily to a safe room at the station, guarded by a trusted deputy. "Stay here," Thomas told her. We'll handle this. Back in the bullpen, Kane approached, his face a mask of calm. Tom, heard you brought a witness. What's this about? Thomas kept his voice neutral. Just following leads, Sheriff. Carter's statement raised questions. Kane's eyes flickered. Carter's a liar. Don't waste time on him. He turned to Holt. Mike, I need you at the evidence yard. The car's being moved tonight, EPA regulations. Holt nodded, but Thomas caught his glance. Kane was trying to separate them. I'll go with you, Thomas said. Kane's smile was tight. No need. You're off this case, remember? He walked away, leaving Thomas and Holt exchanging looks. He's covering his tracks, Holt whispered. Let's tail him to the evidence yard. They followed Kane's cruiser at a distance, the river road dark under the evening sky. The evidence yard, a fenced lot near the station, was lit by floodlights, Ellen's patrol car under a tarp. Kane parked and met a man in a dark jacket, Marsh. Thomas and Holt stayed hidden, watching as Kane handed Marsh a folder. Burn it, Kane said, his voice carrying. Everything from 78 logs, statements, all of it. Marsh nodded, heading for a burn barrel. Thomas's heart raced. They're destroying evidence, he hissed. Holt radioed Brooks. FBI, we've got Kane and Marsh tampering with evidence at the Estacada evidence yard. Need you now. Brooks's voice crackled back. 10 minutes out. Hold position. But Thomas couldn't wait. He stepped out, his flashlight trained on Kane. Sheriff, step away from the barrel. Kane froze, his face pale in the beam. Tom, what the hell are you doing? You bribed Carter, hid Ellen's case notes, protected a drug ring, Thomas said, his voice steady. We've got her notebook, Kane. It's over. Marsh lunged for his truck, but Holt was faster, tackling him. Kane reached for his sidearm, but FBI vehicles roared into the yard, agents spilling out, weapons drawn. Hands up, Sheriff. Agent Brooks shouted. Kane complied, his face crumpling. Marsh struggled, but Holt cuffed him. Brooks approached Thomas, her expression grim. We've got Lily's notebook and Carter's statement. The FBI's taking over. We're searching the sawmill next. Ellen's notes mentioned the meth lab there. Thomas nodded, the locket in his pocket a heavy reminder. Find her body, he said. She deserves to rest. The sawmill, a derelict structure off River Road, was swarming with agents by midnight. Thomas and Holt watched as floodlights illuminated the site, K9 units sniffing for remains. A dog alerted near a collapsed storage shed, and agents began digging. Within an hour, they found bones, human, degraded but intact, wrapped in decayed plastic. A tarnished badge lay among them, engraved with Deputy E. Reed. Thomas's knees buckled. Ellen, he whispered. Holt steadied him. We've got her, Tom. She's home. The forensics team confirmed the remains matched a woman in her 20s with a .38 bullet fragment in the ribcage. DNA testing would take weeks, but Thomas knew it was her. The locket, the badge, it was enough. Back at the station, Kane and Marsh were in separate interrogation rooms, their badges stripped. Brooks took Thomas and Holt to observe Kane's questioning. Through the one-way glass, Kane looked broken, his hands cuffed. I didn't mean for it to happen, he said, his voice hollow. Ellen pulled over a pickup that night, meth runners working for us. The driver shot her, wounded her. I got the call, told Marsh to handle it. But she'd seen too much, could have exposed the whole operation. I finished it, used her gun to make it look like a suicide. We dumped her body at the sawmill, drove her car into the river. Thomas's fists clenched, but he stayed silent. Holt's voice was cold. You ran a drug ring, bribed Carter, silenced witnesses. How many others? Kane's head dropped. Just Ellen. The runners paid us to look the other way. Marsh handled pickups. I cooked the books. It got out of hand. Marsh's interrogation was uglier. He denied everything until Brooks presented Ellen's notebook and Carter's statement. You drove the pickup, she said. Ellen was onto you. You helped Kane cover it up. Marcia's defiance crumbled. Kane gave the order. I just followed. The money was good. Meth was flooding in from Portland. Ellen got in the way. Thomas turned away, sickened. His sister had died for doing her job, betrayed by the men she'd sworn to serve with. Lily joined him, her eyes red but resolute. Mom knew they were dirty, she said. She told me to wait, to keep her truth safe. I did, Uncle Tom. He hugged her tightly. You're as brave as she was. The FBI raided the sawmill lab, uncovering chemicals, cash, and records of a drug network stretching across Oregon. Kane and Marsh named 3 other deputies, all arrested by dawn. Carter's testimony, Lily's notebook, and the physical evidence, Ellen's remains, the bullet casing, the blood, sealed their fate. The department faced a reckoning, with internal affairs investigating every officer from '78. Thomas and Lily planned Ellen's funeral, choosing a plot by the river she'd loved. The community turned out, honoring their first woman deputy, her badge displayed beside her casket. Thomas held Lily's hand as the pastor spoke of courage and sacrifice. Ellen's truth came to light, he said, because you never stopped seeking it. The river flowed nearby, its waters calm, no longer hiding secrets. Ellen was home, her killers exposed, her legacy secured by her daughter's courage and Thomas's resolve. The badge she'd worn meant something again, cleansed by the truth that had surfaced after 9 years.
Thank you for watching our channel Modern Stories. If you liked our video, you should subscribe for more amazing videos like this. Have a healthy and happy day. See you in the next one.